Hello Facebook, guess what? I've decided to do a video today. Guess what it's about? Police brutality, my favorite subject. I know I'm obsessed, but I have just a need to show people what's going on, especially for people who don't want to believe that these police are out here committing crimes against the citizens. And so I have gathered together some news clips because I'm looking at them anyway. I threw them together and threw a little commentary in here and showing police being charged and arrested and losing their jobs over the criminal shit that they do. So I can prove, and for the cop lovers who are, I know, taking a peek, if nothing else but to make fun of me, as long as you get the information though, I don't care, it's going to prove because the cops say that these cops committed crime. So you're going to see. These are news clips that I've gathered just from this past week of what cops have been doing wrong and getting arrested for and been in court for. So this is kind of like a video of a weekly news report, okay? All this stuff just happened in the past week. So take a look. I hope you like it. I did my best to make it short, but it was hard. There was a lot of cases, and I couldn't include them all, so I included the most relevant ones, the ones I thought were most interesting. And so I hope you like it. Check it out. Okay, so I'm going to start my little news report here with a shooting that happened this past week. The Chicago Police Department shot a 19-year-old kid in his back as he was running away. The kid committed no crime. He was not even suspected of a crime. He just matched the description of a suspect who was either breaking into a store or having a fight in the area. I forget which one. But before I show you that news clip, let me tell you that the Philadelphia Police Department had to fire one of their officers this past week because after he shot his own son in a similar circumstance in the back last month, the son lived. They have now charged him and arrested him for attempted murder, so he was fired from the force. But getting back to Chicago, this report is questionable at best. I believe the cop straight murdered him, and I can say that because I have done videos for ODEF Network before on Chicago Police Department, and I've researched them a lot, and I know what a lot of their officers do and how the other officers cover for them, and so does the chief, the superintendent, the state's attorney's office, all the way up to the mayor. They just don't care. This circumstance happened, first of all, the cop was in an undercover, unmarked car. And I do believe he was in uniform, though. But it's just funny, if you lived in the inner cities and understood how these police departments kind of occupy the cities, you would understand how weird it is for them to be in unmarked vehicles. And a lot of them, when they shoot people, I've seen several this year, they're also in plain clothes. There was a 14-year-old boy who was shot at in his back from Baltimore by plainclothes detectives in an unmarked car. And they thought he had a gun, and he had a BB gun. And it turned out the kid lived. But anyway, this Chicago shooting happened in a section called Englewood, and this 19-year-old kid matched the description, and he saw the police jump out of his car and he started running because he is smart, because he's black and young and lives in Chicago and knows what the Chicago Police Department is like. And it turns out he had every reason to fear for his life and run because the Chicago police officers, straight, in my opinion, and from my knowledge of the history of the Chicago Police Department, they straight murdered him. The officer shot him twice in his back and claimed that he turned around and pointed a gun at him twice, which is turning out to be now suspicious and under investigation because the police chief had to come forward in a press conference like a day or two later and say there not only was no gun found on the kid, there was no gun found in the whole area. So there was no gun, so why would someone who's running for their life turn around to point a weapon that they don't have? Think about that. You don't have a weapon. What are you turning around for? Anyway, obviously, I think the cop's lying. I think he got tired of running and he shot. So let's see the news report and what they have to say. You're also going to see surveillance footage of this kid running for his life. This is a 19-year-old kid. He was shot. He was 19 years old. 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 And I forgot to mention, conveniently, the surveillance footage that was captured just doesn't have the angle where he happened to turn around and point the gun. That's the only part that's missing. Darn the luck, you know? Fuck.
Security cameras outside the Nazarene All Nations Church capture some of what happened about 11 o'clock last night. The call came in as a battery in progress on 65th Street in the city's Englewood neighborhood. When a sergeant arrived on the scene, he says he saw a man, 19-year-old Kawan Ray, matching the description, announced who he was, and at that point, according to the sergeant, Ray takes off running. That sergeant says the man twice pointed a weapon at him during a foot chase, which then the sergeant fired his gun twice, striking Ray once in the abdomen. That part of the incident not captured on security video at all. The aftermath, though, some of which anyway, is heard here on police radio.
Heading west. 2 shots fired by the police.
Ray's cousin, who spoke after the shooting, says none of this makes any sense.
You know, they've been keep asking, why did he run? I mean, black males, they are afraid of the police.
Okay, so I'm going to change the pace here a little bit and go with just one report of the many sexual assaults that police have been committing this past week. This is about a cop in Arkansas. I don't even like talking about it. Just look at the report. You'd be so amazed.
A former deputy has been arrested, accused of sexual. Tonight, his accuser is speaking to us. Johnson County Sheriff says he immediately placed that deputy on administrative leave when an anonymous person reported the incident in September. He says 4 days later, that deputy resigned and has been under investigation by state police until his arrest today. And now the woman who says she was raped by that former deputy is speaking out.
This arrest affidavit. Now, normally, we would never reveal the identity of a sexual assault victim. But in this case, the woman wants to be identified. She wants everyone to know what she says that deputy did to her.
Man raped me.
We're only using her first name. Shayna says during the second week of September, 2 deputies showed up at her house for a domestic dispute. She says she was arguing with her boyfriend and a neighbor when someone called police. She says Deputy Robert Repford offered to take her away from the situation in his patrol car. Shayna says the deputy sexually assaulted her inside his car while he was on duty. According to the arrest affidavit, while on duty, Deputy Repford picked up Shayna and took her to a friend's house. But Shayna says her friend wasn't home and the deputy followed her inside.
He turned me around in a corner.
She says the deputy sexually assaulted her with either a flashlight or his police baton. Then she says he raped her and urinated on her.
After that, he made me drink his urine. He told me to enjoy being covered in his. That's what he said. I think he's scary.
So I don't even want to talk anymore about that story, but just to say, I can't imagine that girl would risk her safety to make that up. I don't think she's lying. Okay, so that was just one example of the sexual assaults that go on in these police departments. Every week there's a couple sexual assault cases, and a lot of them have to do with children. You won't see me posting them a lot on Facebook because I don't feel like it helps anything. And it's gross, but I feel like it's relevant to tell you in this video. There were 7 different officers this past week who were charged with sex crimes, a lot of them against children. One against a minor child under 11, another one with a 14-year-old male relative, other one was using his cell phone to take his work phone to take pictures of naked children. The feds came in and busted another one. So this is not unusual, but as far as sexual assaults, there was one in the NYPD. One of their officers were arrested on Friday for 2 counts of sexual assault and harassment, forcible touching, and official misconduct. And he was arrested, but the NYPD just moved him on over to desk duty. The funny thing about that is, it's not really funny, but the victim, is another NYPD officer. It's a lady who works at the department. So what happens when she, turns evidence against this guy who's sexually assaulting her? She still has to work with him. They give him a job across the hall and at a desk. It's unbelievable. So I guess that's how they operate there. But the NYPD also made some news this week. They had a couple officers in court. Okay, so next I'm going to show you a clip of the NYPD. They are seen here. The report says they are pistol whipping this kid. I don't see a gun come out, but they're cracking this kid in the head. This is a 16-year-old juvenile kid. Now, he did have baggies of marijuana with him, and that's what you will see the last officer at the end of the video smack him in the head with after the other officers punch him in the back of the head. He was not fighting the cops. You'll see what happens, but like I said, this is a 16-year-old kid. This is a juvenile. They cracked out his bottom teeth. They were charged, and they were just found this week not guilty at a bench trial, which means the judge decides. And I just want to make note that it is Judge, I want to say Judge Chung, but I might be wrong. But he was the same judge who sentenced the NYPD officer this past year in the manslaughter of Akai Gurley, when he shot Akai, who was an innocent man just coming down the stairwell, and he got scared and shot him in the stomach, and then called his union rep to see what to do to save his job instead of calling 911. He was found guilty by a jury of manslaughter, and this judge was supposed to sentence him accordingly, and he gave him probation, no jail time. So this is a judge we're dealing with who found these guys not guilty of assaulting this kid. See what you think.
So for the players in the locker room, you have to know Mike Zimmer if you're Minnesota. Your head coach isn't here. What are the players thinking before they head out here on the club? If I'm Minnesota's offense, I'm stop treating Sam Bradford like he's a rookie quarterback. And I don't care what the stats say about Dallas's defense. This is an average defense, coach.
Yeah, and they've got to attack them. And then defensively, the same thing. Be aggressive. George Edwards, keep the same mindset that Mike Zimmer would have. Come with those blitzes. See if you can rattle Prescott.
All right, coach, for Jason Garrett, that Dallas locker room, what last thoughts you leaving your players with?
If I was in there, I'd be telling them, same as desperate. Expect anything. Trick plays, gadgets, whatever. And my old coach, Chuck Noll, used to always say, the best way to prepare for the unexpected, know your fundamentals, follow your fundamentals.
The most important thing for the Dallas Cowboys is don't underestimate this team. This team has had a lot of injuries, gone through a lot of adversity. Come out here and play fast, and don't give them a chance to build confidence. Like,
I think this is a great matchup.